AFC though. It's BYB, right? Yeah, you switched teams. Anyway, Khortni the headhunter, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Dude, you're my first BYB champion that I get to interview, so that's pretty exciting.
Hey, pretty cool.
That fight, I like on the Reddit, like a lot of us knew she was tough, but we knew that she wouldn't be able to finish you. So it was going to come down to like who had more of the grit, and clearly you had that.
Yeah, definitely. She's a very tough lady. Holy cow. I was telling my team, I have never hit anybody that hard in my life. I was trying so hard, like, because she just keeps coming forward, right? So I was like, just trying to hit her as hard as I could, just to be like, stop it. So,
yeah. Did you know her at all? Like, I mean, you're both from you both train out of Colorado. Like, had you met her before? Like, had you never met her before? Like, what was the deal?
So I hadn't met her, but we actually have a mutual friend that tried setting up some sparring sessions for her and I like a year and a half ago. It ultimately fell through. At least like nothing ever happened with it. But we have like one very common mutual friend. So, but yeah, never crossed paths before.
Are you glad you had never crossed paths? Like it's one of those things like it's probably for the best that you didn't?
Yeah, I think so. What I'm learning is if you get too familiar with your opponent before you go in there and fight, like trying to flip that switch to go in there and just knock their head off, it seems a little bit harder when they seem more of a human, like they have the humanity behind them. It's a lot harder to try to hurt somebody that's a kind person.
I've been noticing that too with some of the other fighters. They're like, oh, I'm fighting my friend and it's just business. But you see them get in there and they absolutely are holding back. And then they say that afterwards, like, oh, it was so weird to, punch my buddy in the face. And it's like, so like, it's one of those, like, how do you pick who you want to keep close to? Because you also want to be chasing a belt. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, exactly. That's why so when I really figured that out for the first time was when I fought Gabby last year. Because we were like all buddy before, we did the weigh-ins and stuff. It was super cool. We were having great conversation. And then we get in there and her whole personality changed. She's like, I'm going to fuck you up, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, aren't we friends?
Yeah.
So, there was a huge adjustment for me. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, like I have to learn how to differentiate with that. It does make it harder when you're friendly with them.
She's just such a person that's like so crazy. But I'm glad that she's a newer, softer, kinder, gentler Gabby. But also, her last fight was kind of like a bad fight for her. So it's one of those things that she might have to go back to being a savage. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we all go through that.
Okay, so it seemed like the big thing for this fight was you changed gyms. Like do you feel like that was a key? Like do you feel like you improved so much? Like do you feel like you would have been able to beat this person at your last gym, or like do you feel like Jake and those guys were the kind of mixing ingredients that you missed?
I feel like moving up there gave me the confidence to beat her. She's obviously talented and tough as hell. She's been number one in the rankings for a very long time. She's only lost one fight in her bare knuckle career. So I feel like it just gave me that additional edge to get there. I also had a pretty long layoff in between fights. Like it's been the longest in my entire career, which was an entire year to the day. So that kind of helped as well, just having that little bit of a break. And, I stopped doing MMA. I stopped doing Muay Thai and completely focused on bare knuckle this entire year. So, that with the new team, a different outlook and perspective on things definitely helped.
So you talk about a 1-year layoff. Did you you're like, I'm going to go back to and kind of like reinvent yourself? Like I said, we all knew that you had the toughness and she wasn't going to finish you, but like just seeing you were so crisp. And it was one of those things, like every time she hit you, you knew that you were going to hit her back. So like, you were going to make her pay for everything. But like I said, like you seemed like you were on like the next level. Like I've never seen you like you were this time. So like you reinvented yourself or?
Kind of. So I was supposed to originally fight her in May, and that ended up not happening. So I gave myself the additional time. I feel like everything was on the line for this one. because it was the title fight, because it was for this beautiful thing back here. I wanted to be at my absolute best. And so having the year off, whether I intended for that to happen or not, was an amazing thing. I had a full camp. I went through a lot of physical therapy on my body, trying to get my legs right, my shoulders, my back, everything. So that helped. So it wasn't intentional, but it was definitely very beneficial.
Were you pretty beat up leading in? You talk about your back and your shoulders, and like, are you pretty beat up, and now like you're finally recovered, or?
Yeah, because so I started fighting in 2018, and it's been nonstop for me, right? Sure. So in 2020 or 2021, I had 6 fights in that year, right? My last amateur fight, I tore my shoulder up. Never took care of it. It's just something I've been kind of dealing with.
Sure.
But the knee got to a point where I couldn't even walk up and down the stairs without being in excruciating pain. So I had to stop. I was like, all right, like I started PT. I'm like, I have this list of things. If we can tackle them one thing at a time, great, and my PT was amazing. Like he broke stuff down to even sitting the right way. And posture and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Did you have to have surgery for the knee, or is one of those things that you were just able to rehabilitate it?
Yeah. So I actually, when I pulled in April, I couldn't step foot on the mat until like July.
Okay.
So I had to literally sit on my butt and do absolutely nothing. I could lift and stuff like that, but there was a lot of just re-strengthening from the ground up because I just put so much wear and tear on my body over the last handful of years that my knee injury was an overuse injury. So we had to just take a massive break and then start by even down to like the right placement on my foot when I'm walking and moving, and then re-strengthening from there.
Was there any concern you weren't going to be able to fight again, or like that was never a concern?
Okay. No, that was never a concern. I went in, I was like, hey, so I need to get fixed, and this is about the timeline we're looking at. And he's like, all right, cool, not a problem. You have to put the work in to get there. And I actually made like quick progress just because I'm so stubborn and I don't like sitting around doing nothing.
One of the other new things about you is you have like a new management company. Like, has Nick been able to kind of like take a bunch of everything off your shoulders so now that you can focus entirely on fighting? Has that like helped you a considerable amount?
Yeah, definitely. I told Nick when I hired him, I was like, so I don't need to get babysat, but I just need somebody just to help, right? I need these little things done here and there. I need a couple errands around, and that sort of stuff. And he's like, that's exactly what I'm here for. And I was like, good. Like, all I want to do is train and fight. I don't want to deal with the back and forth. I don't want to deal with the phone calls. I don't want to deal with all this shit. My job as a fighter, that's what I want to do. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm here. So it's been super helpful having him.
It's crazy when you talk about being babysat, but there's so many fighters that literally need you to hold their hand and, tell me what time this is and tell me and like call to remind me. And it's got to be so refreshing for Nick to be able to be like, hey, look, this person wants to talk to you, and you're like, I got it. But then like I said, on the back end, like he handles your contract. He, does all the important stuff that you don't want to like waste your time on.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's the one that, negotiated the multi-fight. He's the one that negotiated this being a title fight. Because he called me and he's like, hey, so we're rebooking the fight with Patty, but it's for a title. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And he's like, yep. And I was like, I mean, are you sure? And he goes, oh, totally. We're doing this. And I was like, okay, cool. So he's had a lot of faith in me. And he's also seen my vision, what I want to accomplish, and help me get there. So he was like front row
yeah
with my family on fight night, and I think he was like just as excited as my family was. So
The belt has got to be one of the coolest belts in like all of sports. Like that thing looks heavy, it looks solid. Like
Yeah, it is.
have they told you without like saying a price? Like, oh, this is how much this belt costs, or like, do you have any? No.
No, I have no clue, but it's like, so I took it up to the gym, let it hang out up there for a little bit, and everybody's like, holy shit, this thing is legit. It is so heavy. When I was in the ring after the fight, Mel told me, he's like, hey, so I just want to let you know, like, this thing is so damn heavy. I'm not even going to try to put it on you.
Sure.
I'm going to put it on your shoulder. And I was like, okay, cool. So he sets it on my shoulder. My adrenaline's still dumping, so it was nothing. I'm like, cool. I just got this thing on my shoulder, started walking around with it. And then as the hour went on, I was like, this is getting heavy. We get home and I pick it up the next day and I was like, oh my God, it's like, I don't know, like 20 pounds, 15, 20 pounds. It's so freaking heavy.
When they took her over to examine her the last time, did you know it was about the lip? Like, I thought it was about her eye. I had no idea. Like, when you landed that awesome shovel uppercut, like to her face, like you couldn't really see it. You just saw it like it landed, but they kept checking her eye previous. And I was like, every time they'd walk her over there, I'd be like, please stop the fight. You know what I mean? Like, just because I was so nervous that if they took it to a decision, like you wouldn't get the champion nod because, you're not the champion at that point. But so I was just like, please stop the fight. And then they did. Like, you were cutting her apart with your punches. Like, did you been training your knuckles extra hard? Like you said, I've literally never seen you like tear somebody's face apart like that before.
I know. I was actually really surprised. I was looking at some post-fight photos and I was like, oh, damn. Like I put a lot of cuts in there. Yes. So when switching to Genesis and working with the bare knuckle team up there, Jake just made minor changes, the very, very slight and subtle changes, and they paid dividends, even down to the way my punches were landing. Because, clearly I can fight. I got myself to this point, right? But it was that like little bit of extra stuff. So it was just a matter of how my punches were like landing flush. I've got, massive ass knuckles. So, but looking back before when I would do bag work and stuff like that, like it would only be the one knuckle that was red from hitting the bag. And now we got it to where all four knuckles are hitting the bag consistently. And adding just a little bit of some flair in the punches to help those cuts. I'm telling you, like, it's literally a half-inch difference on the things that I was doing to make that big of a change in it. It was really cool. Really cool.
Isn't it crazy to think that had you noticed that half inch like a couple years ago, like your career could be entirely different too? But I mean, like, it's not like you've had a bad career, but like you were that chick that was like, like you knew that, like I said, you were tough. And now just a half inch, and now you are like a world champion, and you like stop people. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. They had asked me in one of the interviews I did with BYB, they're like, in the Trigon, what do you feel your finish rate's going to be? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't been in there yet, but I always plan to go every round to the very last second. Like, that's just how I prepare. And I actually lost count of the rounds in this last fight. And then before the sixth round started, Jake was in my corner and he's like, listen, this is your last round. And I was like, oh, cool. We're here. All right. And he's like, I need 2 minutes of the cleanest boxing you have ever had in your life. And you're going to change your life. And I was like, all right, cool. I got you. So then I go out there and I saw her dip down and just threw the uppercut super, super quick. And I can't remember if I haven't watched the fight back yet, but I don't remember if I touched her anymore after that or not. But I was told that the uppercut is what, made the lip cut. And that had I continued touching her beyond that, it would have been very, very bad for her. It could have ended very poorly. So
it's one of those things when you saw the cuts, I mean, you start targeting them, or you're just throwing to try to hit her in the face, or you specifically were going, I want to hit that one cut over and over and over.
Yeah, for me, so this is a new experience for me, is cutting somebody, right? Because most of my fights have all been big glove or MMA glove. But I know the few times that I have been able to draw blood on somebody prior to this, I see that spot and you just want to keep attacking it. You know, when I fought Pittman and I saw her forehead was bleeding, that's what I kept going after, was the forehead, to try to make it worse. Honestly, with this fight, I saw the cuts on her eye and I was like, cool, we're just going to keep chopping it because it's above the eyeball, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if it gets too bad, they're going to call it eventually. And so that's what my jab was landing each time, was on her left side, because I was, you know, stepping out and just touching just the left side of her face.
Right.
And then the uppercut happened and I was like, oh shit.
Okay, so you came out of that fight. You yourself was cut. Was there any injuries, broken hands, or anything? Like, you know, like I saw you had some stitches. Anything bad or nothing?
Not really. So I had 3 stitches, just right here in my eyebrow. We took the stitches out Tuesday, and you can't even tell there was a cut there, sure, in the first place. And then I had a couple, like I had one small, like, tear or cut here, and then another one right here. They didn't need stitches, and those were healed up in like 3 days. Hands are good, about ready to get back to hitting shit again. I thought my left hand was broken, but it's not broken. My nose is broken.
Your nose,
but I don't even think the nose happened in the fight. I think the nose happened in camp, and I had no clue.
Okay, so now you're a champion. Are you calling somebody out? Like, are you just kind of waiting to see what Mel has in store? Like, is there so you fought at a weight that you usually don't fight at. You fought at 140 to win a belt. Is it, I want to go down and get the 135 belt? Who has the 135 belt if that's a something?
So Patty has the belt at 135. Okay. So I know they were trying to, they gave her this opportunity so she could be the first 2 division champ. When I did my post-fight interview, I had told them, like, I'll do whatever they say. I don't say no to a fight. I want the hard fights. I want the challenging fights, because that's when I perform my best. But the way their weight classes are with BYB, I can comfortably fluctuate between a few different weight classes.
Right.
So 140 was super comfortable for me. 135, obviously we know that's where I normally fight. So dropping down to 135 is fine. I guess it's all a matter of what they say, what they're okay with. But I wouldn't be opposed to dropping to 135 to try to be the first 2 division champ. Like, that would be cool as hell. Then I get 2 of these bad boys.
Like, do you take the belt places? Like, what do you, I mean, is it like, I mean, you took it to the gym, but like, I mean, do you go to the bar now and you're like, I want to drink for free tonight? Like, what do you do?
So I actually haven't explored very much, because I left it up at Genesis for better part of a week. Just because it was such a huge team effort, you know, sure, what I mean, that I wanted to share this with my team and with the gym. And, you know, if they want to hold it and do all that shit, like, by all means, I get to keep the thing for forever. So, and it's so gorgeous that I was just like, oh dude, like, everybody needs to see it. But no, I haven't gone out anywhere yet or anything like that. So it'd be interesting. Like, I won a title as an amateur, and I was so small and shy about it that I was like walking through the airport carrying it. I'm like, don't look at me, like, I don't want the attention. And this one, I'm just like, dude, look what I got.
It was so bizarre. You won your fight, and you and I are literally texting, and you're like, I'm home already. Like, I thought you would have been out at the bar, and you're like, no, I brought my kid and stuff. But like you're not like, oh, I want to go out and celebrate. Like, I talked to a bunch of champions, and you see them wearing their belt to the mall and stuff like that. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, you don't seem like that outlandish, but also, like, that's such a badass belt. Like, I wouldn't blame you if you certainly did.
It kind of goes with me everywhere. I was like, oh, I'm going to set it up on this shelf, because then we can, you know, admire it while we're talking. It's so beautiful. Like, the first time I saw it years ago, this was back when BKFC used to have them
sure
as well. I saw that and I was like, oh shit, that belt is super pretty. And then they split over to BYB, and I'm like, crap. But then I switched over to BYB, and I'm like, okay, guess what? Guess where we're going? When the fight originally got signed to it was just it was a promotional title,
Sure.
right? So I'm like, all right, cool, like whatever. I'll also fight my ass off. It's a great opportunity. It's a promotional title. I don't really want that belt. I wanted this one.
Yeah.
So then when they acquired BKB and it came out that they were putting all the titles underneath this one, I was like, I messaged Nick and I was like, dude, does that mean that my title fight is for the Police Gazette belt? And he's like, I don't know. I'll find out. And didn't hear anything back for a while. And then I was like, well, I'm going to bust my ass like that much more just in case, because I have to take this thing home. And it was 10 days before the fight. I saw an article that said that it was for the Police Gazette belt. And I was like, oh, hot damn, here we go.
When you signed your contract, did you have a champion clause in there, or like now that you're a champion, you plan on going back and maybe like renegotiating your deal, or like you signed your deal and you were super happy with it, so you're going to fight out the con? Do you have any like interest in that?
I mean, I'll fulfill my contractual obligations. They gave me a huge opportunity I'm super grateful for. Nick is kind of revisiting everything with the contracts and with the promotion to see what if there's any changes with anything. He's going to talk to all of them and kind of explore that.
Okay, so you fought for BKFC. Boo, right? No, I mean, listen, we love them. But you've also
I actually left on good terms with BKFC, so I have nothing poor to say.
Right.
So
No, I know it was a joke, but now you're with BYB. Like, what are the major differences? Like, what do you like about each? What do you like? Wish one would bring the other.
So I will say that in my experience,
yeah,
dealing with BKFC is a little bit of a pain in the ass.
Are you talking about communicate? Yep. Yeah, it seems like everybody's biggest
suck. I know that for the Denver card, like they just opened up ticket sales yesterday and they fight in 3 weeks, which, don't know whose issue that is, but in my experience, there was some snag ups on some things that made it a little hard to self-promote when you only fight locally, right? With BYB, I signed the contract for the September fight like back in June. It was like 2 weeks after Patty fought in May. They're like, hey, we're booking this. Is September a good timeline? I'm like, all right, cool. I had the contract immediately. And then like I was able to promote myself for this fight for well over 2 months. So it just, for me personally, it's a smaller company to deal with, so there's not as many hands in the pot. It's a little easier to deal with it. I also don't have to compete with people that have a massive following in order to fight, in order to, stay active and all of that stuff. Whereas I felt like that was the case with BKFC, is I was competing with people that have more of a bigger following. BYB is a lot of homegrown talent, so they invest into, average Joes like myself.
Right? Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you're relatable. Like it's, like a lot of guys and a lot of women don't look like Paige Van Zandt, and you know what I mean? Like you're a very relatable person. I feel like it's a brilliant idea to go after, like, an average Joe chick that can kick the shit out of somebody. I feel like that's like, I mean, if you're going to market it, like you can easily, your average mom's going to be like, I really want Khortni, versus the amount of people that hate on the supermodel types that do the fight. You know what I mean? So I feel like it was a brilliant idea to go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't fight for the money. I don't fight for the following. I fight for the passion of fighting. I had a very extensive amateur career, and I just wanted to make a little bit of some dollars doing what I love to do. But to my debut, I had like 1,500 followers on Instagram, and I was going up against somebody that had like, I don't know, she got damn near 500,000 followers.
Sure.
Right. And so I'm like, I don't have assets to help me push this a little bit more, so it's a little harder. And you have to sell so many tickets to like make your purse worthwhile, while, somebody I've had 5 times as many fights as she had, but she was making, X
Sure.
amount of dollars versus what I was making. And there's just a lot of craziness with the popularity bit on it. And I'm not here to have 1 million followers. I'm just here to freaking fight and be cool doing it.
No, we've talked to a BKFC champion, and he said he misses when it was more important to be a good fighter than to be good on social media. And like, I can't agree more with that. Like I don't remember when, but it's weird that like it used to be like if you were the toughest guy in the world, that meant more than, oh, I have 1 million followers and I won a decision.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like in my heart, I knew from day one that I am one of the best in the world at 135 pounds.
Sure.
At bare knuckle fighting. Like I just, in my heart, that's what I felt. And it was frustrating because I didn't have the opportunity to showcase that very much. It was a big platform and phenomenal, like I said, I'm grateful for every opportunity they gave me. But being able to make my debut in a promotion against the number 1 person in the world.
Sure.
It's huge. It's huge. That's all I wanted. I want the hard fights. I don't want, people coming up from 115 just to give me a fight. Like I want the fights that matter. I want the fights that are going to push me to this level and challenge me.
So you were a confident person before you won a world champion. Like how high is your confidence level now? Like it has to be through the roof, right? Like, are you just, like you knew that's what it was going to be?
So I actually was not that confident before.
Okay.
Signing for this fight, I had to believe in myself to be able to win, right? That was actually one thing I worked on a lot this camp, was my mindset with stuff. My last fight for BKFC, I was just like, all right, cool. Like, I don't know much about her. We're just going to go in there and do the damn thing. And sure. Watching Patty fight live a few times, I was like, dude, I know I can beat her. And that was the mindset that I had when I made my debut with BKFC. It was like, I know I can beat this person. I know I can do good. And so that's kind of what I was focusing on, is like, I know I'm better. I know I'm going to do my best. And I lost your question, but hopefully that answered it.
Let's talk about Jake. I know Jake is super like the mental part of the aspect, and he's like, you got to keep your fighter's mind quiet and keep him working on the good stuff, because he and I talked. He goes, all it takes is a moment for that bad thought to creep in, and then suddenly it's there. Did you guys specifically work on anything, or is just like he's such a positive person and kind of worked you through it?
He actually is a super positive person. Even when he needed to give me criticism, it was very polite and friendly. Like, sure. Hey, you're doing this really good. Can you do more of this, please? And I'm like, okay, shit. Okay. Yeah, I got you. And then like when I was warming up for the fight, he just was like, dude, I love where your head's at. I love the energy that's coming off of you right now. So he finds that positive and then feeds off of it. He's sure. Definitely different than what I've been coached by in the past, not knocking on anybody. It's just a different approach, and it seemed to work very well for me.
Who did you have in your corner? Like, I recognize Jake and I've seen the other people, but I don't know them. So who did you have?
So the younger of the trio was Eric. Eric has been in my corner for all my bare knuckle fights.
Okay. Yeah. I recognized him.
Yep. And
what
then the other
coach, or where's he from?
So I trained with him. I actually met him years ago during COVID when I was at Pound for Pound.
Okay.
And then he parted ways with Pound for Pound, and it was just somebody that I kind of stuck with during that transition. And then I parted ways with Pound for Pound, but because I have a good relationship with everybody, like sure. It was one of those things where I could train at Genesis and Eric could still be a part of that. And then the third guy was Owen, who is one of the boxing coaches up at Genesis as well. And he he did really great during this camp just by giving me, some of his time and helping me with just minor fundamental things that made such a massive difference. So actually I have this super cool picture right here in my pile
Of course. Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, so
yeah,
this was like super, super cool. I saw that and I was like, oh my God. So I had a bunch of these printed and I gave one to each one of the coaches with some little, like I signed it and
that's
all
super
that
cool.
stuff. Yeah.
Talk to us about the ring. Like, what's it like fighting in that little bitty ring?
So in May, when they were here, I stepped in just to get an idea for it. I'm like, okay, there's actually a little bit of space in here. And then when I would spar, I would take like a smaller boxing ring and cut it in half, right? So I was in this super tight triangle space sparring. I'm like, oh, there's not a lot of room for error in here and this and that. I got in there on fight day and I was like, oh shit, this is bigger than I thought. So I actually prepared for a lot smaller of a space, and then had a little bit more room to wiggle on fight day. The angles were really crazy in the corner because they were like super, super tight, right? Like I was like, if you get stuck, like there's no dipping out of this. Like you have to strategically find a way out of it.
Right.
But it's cool because there's nowhere to run in that small of a space. You just have to stay engaged the whole time. There's enough room to move strategically, but not enough room to run.
So I feel like their ring is much more suited to you because you being a counter fighter, and I've talked to other people before, like you're a counter fighter and styles make matchups, and you had a woman who came at you, you counter fought her, but you and I also talked after your last fight, you have to be a little more aggressive, and you were definitely more aggressive. So it's crazy. It was like a perfect storm of everything that happened. Like you got the smaller ring, so she had to come to you, and then you started picking her apart, and then just from there, it just domination.
Yeah, I was really excited about the matchup because statistically we're the same height, same reach, same fist size. She comes forward, I come forward, or I shouldn't say we both come forward. Neither one of us quit.
Sure.
That's what I want. She's not afraid to get hit. She's not afraid to get hit and keep moving forward. She's not afraid to hit backing up. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like I got a dance partner that's like ready to go. And I was stylistically so excited for the matchup because even at weigh-ins, I was like, dude, you guys are going to see like one of the most entertaining women's fights ever. Totally wish we would have got fight of the night, but hey, that's okay. I still feel like it was a great fight, and I feel like it was entertaining as hell, just from what I remember, and I haven't watched it yet.
The only issue that I had is she ran out of the ring afterwards. I don't know her as a person. I've never talked to her. How is she? But like I said, that was also frustrating to me because I feel like you're the champion. You got to be a gracious champion. And I feel like, a lot of her people were angry and they got the heck out of there. But I mean, she was cool in the back or was she upset? Okay.
No, she was super, super cool. I don't know why she left the ring abruptly. A lot of people are saying it was poor sportsmanship. I'm really wondering if it was medically necessary that she needed to leave so quickly. I don't know. I kind of just let it be what it was. But in the back, I saw her coach and her sister, and I was like, dude, she's a freaking warrior. I tried to embrace her there in the ring, to show good sportsmanship from my end. Cause dude, I was getting booed like a mofo up there.
People hated you. It was so great.
I know. And so I was like, you know what? You guys can hate on me all you want. And I even said it in the post-fight speech. I'm like, look, I hear you booing.
Yeah.
But just know I respect the shit out of this lady. So shut the fuck up. Right? But no, she was super fine. Her son came up to me an hour after the event ended, and he shook my hand. He was super sweet. He's like, dude, you fought my mom. It was a great fight. Thank you. Her coach in the back, I was like, hey, thank you so much. And he goes, it was a fair fight. I'm not pissed off about the decision. I'm like, okay, thank you for that. I shot her a message 2 days later on Instagram, and I was like, dude, nothing but respect. It was phenomenal. Thank you so much. And she goes, absolutely, it was. You're a warrior. Let's do it again sometime. And I'm like, let's do this. So, I've never seen her talk shit about people. I've never seen her be a poor sport. Okay. So I didn't take her leaving the ring as poor sportsmanship. Whether it was or not, I don't know, but I didn't take it as such.
Okay, but the goal is to not get close to her, not like, like you get chummy with people after the fight, but like clearly you're going to fight this woman again. So like you're keeping your distance. Yep.
We'll keep it at what it is. It's a business relationship. No ill feeling whatsoever, but at the end of the day, there's a goal in mind. We both have an objective, right? We both want to carry 2 belts and retire in really cool fashion. So, she's standing in my way, I'm standing in her way. And at the end of the day, we're going to probably end up in there again, beating the absolute piss out of each other.
Is it one of those things you want to fight in Colorado again, or you're ready to like get the hell out of there and go fight somewhere big?
I don't really care one way or another. It would be cool to travel to go fight. My entire AMI career, I traveled. Sure. I like barely fought at home. I think I had like 3 fights at home my entire amateur career. And then I've been fortunate enough that all of my pro fights have been right here at home. So I'm like, we could fight here at home. It makes sense if her and I are both from here. Like it draws a good crowd. But at the same time, like if they're down to let me travel, dude, a Patty and Khortni rematch overseas, like
yeah. And they've done some big ones like in Abu Dhabi and stuff. Yeah, like absolutely.
Yeah, like it would be really great.
Okay, so my last question, like I always ask about the street fight, but we know that you were never much of a street fighter. Like, do you get recognized now though? Like now you're like a world, now you're a world champion, but now, I mean, like you started doing the boxing and stuff, like you walk in the supermarket, people are like, oh, I saw you on TV type of thing. Or you're still like small enough that you,
yeah, still pretty small enough. Like in the fight community, I'm being recognized more.
Sure.
Actually when BKFC was here in May, I went to that event and, just purely as a spectator, I had already signed with BYB, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a guy sitting in our section. He's like, are you Khortni Kamyron? I'm like, I am. And he's like, dude, I'm a huge fan. Like, I saw you fight up at the First Bank Center. Can I get a picture with you? And I'm like,
of course.
Yes. But it's crazy because most of the people, when they say they saw him, they're like, oh, yeah, I've seen you fight. There is one fight that they're referencing, and it was my debut when I fought Pittman.
Yep.
Right. So I'm hoping that more people will start seeing that. Like I put on a show with the exception of my last BKFC fight because I was a little slow for my liking. It
was a little boring. Yeah.
However, I put on a show when I fight, right? Like I try to make it as entertaining as possible. I didn't even get to tell you that 3rd round in that fight, dude, I fought with one eye.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you. Yeah, I forgot about that too. Tell us about that.
I had Vaseline because I got cut on this side and somehow the Vaseline covered my eye. And so it was like blurry as shit. I could see light, but I couldn't see anything else. So I fought the 3rd round with one freaking eye because I couldn't see. And I literally just wanted to survive the round.
Did you think like, oh, I took a punch I can't see? Or did you know it was Vaseline? Like, or you just...
Oh, no, I had no idea. I think I got hit, which kind of what smeared it. And I opened my eye. I'm like, oh shit, this is bad. So I'm like moving. And as I'm moving, trying to survive, I'm like, what the fuck is happening with my eye? Right? Like, what is going on? And then I think at one point we got separated and I went like this in the corner just because I wasn't sure if it was blood or Vaseline. I just knew it wasn't good. Yeah. And I went like this and it kind of like loosened up a little bit. And I'm like, okay, just survive the round. And then in between rounds, like my face got wiped off and clean. I'm like, cool, I can see now. And it wasn't until like the end of the fight that I realized the texture, it was Vaseline. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. So I just knew I was like trying to not die.
Have you heard anything like fight before the end of the year, or you're off for the end of for the rest of the year? Like, is there any talks?
I have not heard anything. Nick said he messaged Mel, but hasn't heard anything back yet. Um, I'm medically suspended until November the 5th.
Okay.
I just started like lifting this week. So I took all of last week off. I didn't do shit last week. Well, I started lifting again this week, and then I'll go back to striking and stuff next week. But more than likely, I won't fight again before the end of the year unless something weird comes up. And with my day job, January is not. My boss was very kind. She's like, please don't fight in January. I said, okay. So, probably after January, like I said, unless something really strange comes up.
Awesome. Well, like I said, we love you on the Reddit. You know that. Like, you're super active on the Reddit. So, like, no matter where you go,
guys.
Yeah, no matter where you go, we're gonna follow you. So, like, I just had to make sure we talked to you. Like, I can't wait to come see you in Colorado. Check out that belt. It's one of those things. So, we've talked to other champions, and they don't want people touching their belt. Are you one of the? You're not one of those people. You're like, touch the belt. Like, yeah, we talked to some other guys, and they're like, oh no, unless you earn it, you don't get to touch it, type of thing. And it's like, okay.
Oh no, so I took it up to Genesis last week, and I asked Jake. I was like, can I leave it here? And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. Like, it is beautiful. It needs to be seen. But it was also not just me that did it. Like, there's a ton of people that helped me get there, a ton of people that were eating punches or punching me back, like it was a massive team effort. And, Jake was the head coach in all of that. So he obviously needs to hold the damn thing too. And Owen, and like, it just, it's not just my belt.
Sure.
I did the hard gritty shit, but we all put in time for it. So, and I mean, it'll live here until I die. Right. So I'm like, dude, I told Jake, I was joking. I was like, do you want to like split 50-50 custody on it or something? He goes, yeah, I'll take it Monday through Wednesday. We'll switch Wednesday night and you can have it till Sunday. I'm like, perfect. Sounds like a great plan. So
I lied. I have one more question. You're a mom to a teenager. Like, does all of his friends think like you're insane, or like does he like? Because he's a combat sports kind of guy himself. I know he does wrestling and stuff. Like, do the parents think like, oh, this is so cool? Like, do his friends like? Does everybody want to come over? Like, what's the story?
So my son was raised in combat sports, as was my daughter. She's a little bit more private about it, which is totally cool. Sure. My son has done jiu-jitsu. He's had 4 Muay Thai fights. Like, he's very deep in the combat sports. His freshman year, I just tried to keep everything very quiet, right? Like, I showed up to all the wrestling meets, and I was just like, I'm just Shane's mom, like, I'm here. I'm just, if you need stuff, let me know. And his closest friend at the time found out that I was a bare knuckle fighter, and he's like, oh shit, that's badass. And I'm like, thanks. Well, we made it through the whole wrestling season. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew. I'm like, all right, cool. We get to state last year, and I'm up in the stands with all the wrestlers and all the parents and whatnot. And somebody was, one of the kids was giving me a hard time, and my son's friend was like, dude, do not fuck with Shane's mom. Like, she is a bare knuckle fighter. And the whole team was just like, wait a minute, what? Like, Miss Shane's mom, is that true? And I'm like, yeah. Shit. And they're like, that's so badass. And then I started like, during the summer we have a lot of fundraisers and stuff, and I was showing up with like nasty black eyes and bruises and everything, and they're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And they've been really supportive over it. It's super cool. A couple of the wrestling coaches, we have a lot of very common friends.
Okay.
One of his coaches at High Altitude, which is a gym here in Colorado. Sure. That a lot of the MMA fighters are on, and actually was in Vegas Tuesday for the Contender Series cornering a guy. And I'm like, telling my son, I'm like, dude, like your coach, this is a small world because I know this guy too. And
Yeah.
yeah, so they all think it's pretty cool. I picked my son up and I had the belt in the backseat of the car the other day, and we were moving it into the back of the car, and one of the moms passed by and she's like, dude, I gotta see this thing like right now. Her husband used to fight MMA, so they're like,
Yeah.
and then like it turned into this long line of people of, dude, let me see this thing. And oh, it's so badass, that's so cool. I'm like, yeah. Like, I was just trying to stay quiet, and here I am now with this honking ass piece of metal coming with me.
Well, I look forward to seeing one over both shoulders. That'll look pretty badass. So hopefully that happens. And like I said, keep active on the Reddit. We appreciate it so much. And I can't wait.
Oh yeah, of course. I have to go back and read your guys' chat when I was fighting, because I like doing that. I like seeing like what all you guys have to say. It's super cool.
It was so cool back in the day when we could make it specific for events, and now like they don't let you make it specific for events. So now it's like so long, and it's crazy because some fighters like absolutely take like there's a fighter from Denver, and he was like, "You guys were shit talking," and I was like, "I wasn't really shit talking. We were saying you weren't really doing anything," and like I mean, it was a boring fight. You know what I mean? And like. I feel like as long as people are honest, you can't be upset with them. But I also, like I said, I mean, like it's one thing to be like downright an asshole to somebody, but like if someone's constructive criticism, but yeah, like everybody loves you, and like it was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was cool. I was very worried about the transition from BKFC over to BYB, because there's a lot of people that are like die hard BKFC, like screwed if you go anywhere else.
Sure.
And so the support that I got from all you guys when I made the transition was super cool. Like, hey, I'm not leaving because it's a shitty thing. Like, it's a smart move career-wise for me, right? Yeah. So just because I'm not getting any younger, I just got to hurry up and get my fights out the way so I can retire.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. Like I said, we totally understand, and like it's one of those things. Like if you're active and you're engaging with the fans, I feel like that's what they want. What a lot of people get upset about is like when like we got people that come in and they make a post and then they don't say shit and they don't interact with the fans, and then suddenly they're like, why don't people like me? And it's like because you're not engaging, but you talk to everybody who comments to you. So like I don't see it being an issue with you.
Yeah, no. I'm just at the end of the day, like. I might be a world champ, but I'm still just a normal guy here.
Yeah.
Gotta talk to everybody. I'll talk to anybody that shoots me a message if I see it. Like, hey, you want to talk? Yeah, that's fine. Respect my time. I'll respect your time. We're good.
Cool. So. All right, thick knees. Well, you have a great
shit.
We look forward to talking to you again. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.